Okay, this is a walkthrough for the review for Standard 2 and 3 assessment, and I'm going to run through this. Please bear with me. Make sure I got all my pens and colors that I want to have. Everything, and then I'm going to stamp some graphs here real quick. So, biggest thing about this is you want to make sure that you take the time to graph things correctly, slow down, ask questions, double check your work, and everything. There are two parts. Standard 3, this first part here is going to be on your own. So make sure you have the time set up for this. So we're going to write a prediction equations. I apologize. There's that crazy light of mine again. So what we're going to do is we're going to hit the stat button. I'll zoom out here. We're going to go stat, edit. I already have the data in here, but I'm going to clear it out. So I'm going to just delete everything here. And I'm going to type it in again. 6, 12, 15, 20, 31. Remember, we're going to skip 27 because it's unknown. So we're going to skip it. And then we're going to do the corresponding values. Now, you can type right on top of them, or you can delete them out. But if you want to type right on top, you just go 3, 21. Make sure every time you type the answer, you go to the next value, hit enter. Make sure they match. Double check your list. I have 6, 12, 15, 20, 31. Matches those numbers. 3, 21, 26, 39, 47. 3, 21, 26, 39, 47. Double check twice. Check twice but once. Best thing. We're going to go stat. We're going to arrow over to calc. Choose number 4. On this calculator, I have to enter a few times to get to calculate. If you have an older calculator, it will just pop up with that line reg that you kind of saw flash up there. All you have to do is hit enter to get it to run. Now these are your values. So you may round to 3 decimal places, or you may write exact. If you're going to write exact, you're going to write down these values exactly as you see them. A, B, and R. All right. A goes into the equation where A is. B goes in the equation where B is. So you're going to plug in your slope and your y-intercept. If you're going to round, what you're looking at is at this 4. Does this 4 round this 5 up? You go to the 4th spot, 4th decimal. See if it rounds up. Same thing with this 0. Does this round this 8 up? Same thing down here with this 5. Does this 5 round this 5 up? Stays the same, rounds up. A and B go with this equation, which goes to number 1. R goes to number 3. That's your correlation coefficient. So with these values, I'm going to type in the decimal answers. I'm going to do the rounding. So y equals 1.725x minus, because it's a negative, 1.788. If you do a plus minus, that's fine, but I'm not going to. Prediction equation. You take this prediction equation and you're going to plug in this 27. I write it down or type it in, or you can do this last. You will have a show your work spot for this problem if you want to do that. Correlation coefficient, R equals 0.956, or you may choose to not round it once again. Plugging this value into my calculator. After I write everything down, I make sure before I type anything in, because as soon as I start typing on newer calculators, the screen goes away. Older calculators, you can kind of still see it. So I'm going to take the values. I'm going to go 1.725 times 27 minus 1.788, enter. 44.78, so my estimated prediction value for y, this question mark, is 44.787. You do not have to show work, but I'm just trying to explain where that comes from. This correlation coefficient here, this is a positive number, so this is a positive correlation. Then, because it's between the values of 0.9 and 1, which in your note packet, you have an explanation of when it is there. R value is your correlation coefficient. It says it right here. My concern is that you need to write down strong and accurate. You don't need to write down not strong and not accurate. You just need to have positive if it doesn't fall between 0.9 and 1 or negative 0.9 and negative 1. So this would be strong and accurate. I don't mind how you write these out. You can put strong and accurate in the front. You could put positive, strong, and accurate, commas, whatever you would like to do, just as long as those three words are in there if it's between 0.9 and 1, as well as negative 0.9 and negative 1. If it's anything below that, so for example, if you had negative 0.856, this would just be negative. You had 0.576, positive. Obviously not a good choice, or doesn't model the information because you get 57% of your data. You get 85% of your data with a negative correlation. And if you get a 0, make sure you say no correlation. Now, if you get a 0, you did something wrong on a quiz because you should not get 0. Next thing we're going to do is we're going to solve these equations. I am going to use notebook paper, so I have a little bit more room to write and to classify everything that you're doing. I don't care if you take your quiz on notebook paper. Make sure that you write things out, you show all your work. So the first problem, number 5, is absolute value of 2n minus 4, absolute value equals 17. Absolute value bar is already by itself, so you're going to do your two cases. 2n minus 4 equals 17, and 2n minus 4 equals negative 17. Make sure on your second case you change the number that you have to the opposite of what you see. Then we're just going to solve this out. So now I have two answers. I need to check them. Make sure you plug them back into the original problem. So the first problem, to check the first answer, 2 times minus 4 absolute value. This is going to be 10.5. You can use the decimal or you can use a fraction. I'm not going to get picky on that. Normally I don't use decimals, but I'm going to use it in this case. So this comes 21 minus 4 absolute value. Absolute value of 17. Does that equal 17? That's your question. So with that, that is a true statement. So that means this answer works. Test the other one. Absolute value of 2 times something minus 4 absolute value. Negative 6.5. Absolute value of negative 13 minus 4 absolute value. Absolute value negative 17. Does that equal 17? That is also true. So then this is a solution. So your answer would be n equals 10.5 and or your choice n equals negative 6.5. Or you can give me the fractions, either way. Number 6. Three absolute value 4y minus 2 absolute value minus 7 equals 11. Before you do anything, you have to get the absolute value bars by itself. Plus 7 to both sides. 3 absolute value 4y minus 2 absolute value equals 18. Divide by 3. Absolute value of 4y minus 2 absolute value equals 6. So now that we're here, I'm going to solve the cases. So the first case is 4y minus 2 equals 6. 4y minus 2 equals negative 6. Plus 2 plus 2. 4y equals 8. Plus 2 plus 2. 4y equals negative 4. Divide by 4. Y equals 2. Y equals negative 1. Take those numbers and plug them into the original problem. So original problem is 3 absolute value 4 times something minus 2 absolute value minus 7 equals 11. So I'm going to plug in a 2. I'm going to plug in negative 1. 3 absolute value of 8 minus 2 minus 7 equals 11. 3 times the absolute value of 6. minus 7 equals 11. This becomes 6 times 3, I apologize, 3 times 6 minus 7, which equals 11, which is true. So this answer works. 3 times absolute value of negative 4 minus 2, absolute value minus 7. 3, absolute value negative 6, absolute value minus 7. 3 times 6 minus 7, does that equal 11? That is true. So this is another solution as well. Number 7. Absolute value of 2n plus 1 absolute value plus 11 less than negative 12. Minus 11 from both sides. Absolute value of 2n plus 1 absolute value, is that less than negative 23? Now, an absolute value can never be less than 0 because you could have the best distance of being from 0 to 0. So you can have never have a negative value out of this. So this is not a true statement. So right off the bat, you could say no solution or empty set. Because this is not true. Now, if you don't see that, then you need to solve it out. 2n plus 1 is less than negative 23, and then 2n plus 1 is greater than 23. Minus 1, minus 1. 2n is less than negative 24. Divide by 2's. N is less than negative 12. Did not divide by negative, so I don't flip a sign. Minus 1, minus 1. 2n is greater than 22. Divide by 2. N is greater than 11. Now, inequalities, you still got to plug in and check. So what we do is we check on a number line. So on a number line, I have a negative 12 and I have 11. Based on these answers, I should have an OR going on. So I should have a number that picks into here. Now, this is an AND because it's less than. But if you don't understand that, remember that. Once again, I just learned that 3 years ago. Check your points. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to test a 0. I'm going to test negative 13. And I'm going to test 12. Okay? Should have wrote those in a different color. I'm going to test 0, 12, and negative 13. So in my original problem, I'm going to test each one of these numbers. So I have 2 times something plus 1 plus 11. Is that less than 12? So I'm going to test negative 13 first. Is the absolute value of negative 26 plus 1 plus 11 less than 12? Is the absolute value of negative 25 plus 11 less than, whoops, I dropped my negative. Negative 12. Well, negative 25, the absolute value of that is 25. 25 plus 11, well, that's not going to work. So this doesn't work, which means this doesn't work, which means this is not a solution. Same thing, testing with 0. 0 should not work, but I'm going to test it anyways. Test. And you don't have to show all this work. You can just show the pink, and then if you do it in your head and you get it, great. So 2 times 0. Whoops, wrote that different than what I've been doing on any other one. 2 times 0 plus 1, absolute value plus 11, is that less than negative 12? So anything plus 11 is going to be bigger than negative 12. However, we're going to check the math and double check. Is the absolute value of 1 plus 11 less than negative 12? I just totally wrote that in the wrong color again. Absolute value 1, because 2 times 0, 0 plus 1 is 1, plus 11, is that less than negative 12? Is 12 less than negative 12? Nope. So this doesn't work, which we already knew, but we're double checking in case we solved wrong. Last but not least, we have 2 times something plus 1, absolute value plus 11. We're going to plug in 12. This gives me absolute value of 2 times 12 is 24 plus 1 is 25, absolute value plus 11, less than negative 12. This is not true, so this is also not true. Since all three parts are not true, empty set or no solution, either one works. The next one we have is number 8. Absolute value of 3n minus 7 absolute value is greater than or equal to 11. Greater than, greater, should be an or problem, but we're going to just double check. Absolute value bar is already by itself, so we're going to go 3n minus 7 is greater than or equal to 11. And then the second case is 3n minus 7. We got to change the sign negative 11, so since we've times by a multiple of a negative, or negative has been multiplied, we have to switch our sign. Plus 7, 3n is greater than or equal to 18, divided by 3, n is greater than or equal to 6. Do not have to switch any signs because then multiply or divide by negative. Plus 7, 3n is less than or equal to negative 4, divided by 3, n is less than or equal to negative 4/3. Number line. Negative 4/3, 6. These are closed circles. Since the middle is open, this should be an or, but we're going to double check. I'm going to check a 0 because that's in between. I'm going to check a negative 2, and I'm going to check a 7. If you aren't sure what number to pick over here, pick something that is smaller than negative 4/3, like negative 10, negative 20. If I can pick 0 in the middle, I always pick 0, and then I always just go one number bigger than a whole number. Same thing if this was like negative 2, I would pick negative 3. So remember, you're just plugging in, you're checking your points. So I have 2, I have 0, and I have 7. Original problem. These all must be greater than or equal to 11, so I'm just going to see what numbers I get and then make sure at the very end it's greater than or equal to 11. So this is negative 6 minus 7, absolute value, gives you absolute value of negative 13. 13 is greater than negative 11, that's true. Absolute value of negative 7, because 3 times 0 minus 7 is 0, so is 7, not true. And then this last one, absolute value of 21 minus 7, absolute value 14, gives me the value of 14 is greater than or equal, that is true. So this one doesn't work. So this is an or question, so I just have to write down what these things are and just throw the word or in between. So my final answer, it doesn't matter your order, but do not make this compound. You have to have the word or in your answer. So it's going to be an or. And if you go left to right, this would be n is less than or equal to negative 4/3, or n is greater than or equal to 6. This would be your answer that you type in. Remember, if it has a space, it's an or. You can't write it as a compound. You will be wrong. Please don't. So really quick, compounds before I get to graphing. So if your answer was in between 2 and 6, 2 is less than or equal to x, which is less than 6. This is a sandwich. You have a value in between. Based on compounds, if you have the space, remember, it's an or. So this would be all the values less than 2, or if you wanted to, 6 is less than or equal to x. I don't like that way. I just write it x is greater than or equal to 6. These are the same things, but if you follow your order, there's x's on this side and there's x's on this side. So that's your 8. Last thing we have is graphing. So I have these 2 makeshift plots, so please bear with me. These are a stamp and a sketch. A equals 1/2. H equals -4. K equals -3. H is on the inside. It's opposite. So I'm going to go to -4, comma, -3. -4, 1, 2, 3, 4, down 3, 1, 2, 3. And my slope is 1/2, and make sure you make a V, so you're going to go up 1 over 2, up 1 over 2, up 1 over 2, and then it mirrors on the other side, and then you just graph your V. Okay. This one here is an inequality, so A equals -1, this is value that's out front. H equals 3, it's opposite of what you see. K equals 3 as well, so my point is 3, comma 3. So I'm going to go over to 3, up to 3. This is an inequality, so this here means it's a solid line. And then my slope is down 1 over 1, so essentially I'm going to hit here on this wonderful line. I'm going to draw a line through this as best I can. I'm going to test a point. You can't test 0, 0, so I'm going to test the point of 3, 0 into this problem. So is 0 less than or equal to the negative absolute value of 0? Oops, sorry, that's a 3, because x is 3. 0, absolute value, plus 3. So is 0 less than or equal to negative absolute, that's a 3. I know the answer is 0 in here, and I really just want to write that down. 0 plus 3 is 0 less than or equal to absolute value of 0, 0. 3, this is true, so then I shade here. So there's your review.